What's that? A wild Michaela has appeared? I haven't existed in the YouTube space in a very long time, but I've been around, I've been watching some stuff. My rabbit is currently trying to eat my bamboo plant. Hold! Hey! Hey! Good enough for you. Good enough for you to eat. Come on! Eat some back up! Good boy. Well then, I haven't been on the YouTube space in quite some time, and I've been around watching stuff, and I've been very active on the Poptimists' new Discord group thing. If you haven't heard of it, I'm going to link it down below because it's a fun time. Come chat with us about literally anything. We've also been doing monthly book club reads, and next month is one that I'm super excited about because it's going to be a Korean book in translation, which anybody who knows me knows that's a personal interest of mine. But today I'm here to talk about the Booktubeathon, which technically we have been part of for the last couple of years. Last year was a little bit of a fail. We weren't able to do any of the video challenges, I don't think, really, and part of that was because of my mental health and how I was doing, and clearly, can you see my glasses fogging up on this side? It is so freaking hot here, guys. And late to the party as always, I'm here to do my TBR. I have my stack of 7 books here, plus an auxiliary stack of a few over here, which are like my extras that I can read if need be, but let's get to it. The first challenge is to flip a coin to decide the first book that you are going to read. So I have 2 books to choose from here. One is Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant, aka Shannon McGuire, which I have been excited to read. Since reading the Wayward Children series, or the first 2 books in the Wayward Children series, there's one that I haven't read that's currently published and one that's going to be published in the wintertime. I was been intrigued by her. I followed her on Twitter and I've been watching her, and I've heard some good stuff about this. I didn't know it was published under her pseudonym Mira Grant, but it will be interesting to sort of see what happens here and if I enjoy it. We all know that I'm a big fan of horror, and this one is like subnautical horror, which is something that I haven't read before, I don't think. So we'll see how that goes. The other option is Neverworld Awake by Marisha Pessl, which, if any of you have been following the channel for a while, her book Night Film was one of my favorite books of 2016. It was a while ago, I don't know, a couple years ago. And I read her first book, Special Topics in Calamity Physics, last year, and it was okay. It definitely sort of had some pitfalls of a first book. This is actually a teen sort of speculative fiction one about a group of teens who get into a car crash, think that they survive it, but find out that they've been put into basically purgatory, and only one of them can leave, but in order to leave, the whole group has to come to a unanimous decision about which one of them gets to live. And that is a crazy idea, and I love it. Either way, I'm reading both of these, but the coin shall decide which one is the one that I'm starting off with. So I'm going to try and flip this on camera. Let's see how this goes. I'm thinking heads for Neverworld Wake and tails for Into the Drowning Deep. I have a United States, I don't know if this will focus. Is my autofocus even on? No, I don't think so. I have a United States dollar coin, which I don't ever spend because they're so few and far between. The head side has George Washington, the tail side has the Statue of Liberty, and I'm gonna, this is like the most awkward friggin' thing ever. Are we ready? I'm not ready. And we have a George Washington. I can't, it's a George Washington, I promise you. So we're starting with Neverworld Wake. Neverworld Wake is going to be the first book that I'm reading during the Booktubeathon. I will also be reading Into the Drowning Deep. It's going to be my book 7 rando choice that doesn't fulfill any of the other challenges. But starting with Neverworld Wake, that's going to be my first book. The next challenge is to read a book about something that you want to do or someday. I recently picked up How to Find Love in a Bookshop by Veronica Henry, which is something that I have not heard anything about, but I have sort of been in the mood of like, I guess chick lit, but like something light and fluffy and contemporary. And some of you may know that there is a goal in my life to someday run a bookshop specifically for children. And while I don't have a family member who owns a bookshop that they can give to me when they pass away, I am looking currently for any rich people who would like to sponsor a young girl with a dream. Hit me up, emails down below. I'm going to read this because it's short and also sounds like it's going to be like light and fluffy and not going to be a huge drain on my head. Third challenge is book to movie adaptation. So read the book and then watch the movie. I have Hidden Figures by Margaret Lee Shetterly. I haven't seen the movie and I haven't read the book, and I've had it since last year when the movie came out. It's one that's sort of been on my radar. Gretchen and I at one time had thought about reading and reviewing it together. So if I read this and then she reads it at some point, maybe we can do a joint review of it. But at the moment, this is the one I think that I'm gonna be doing for that challenge. I do also have P.S. I Love You by Cecilia Ahern, which is one of my favorite movies to watch when I get sort of sad and down, because it is sad, but also because it has sort of like a nice chick lit feel again. It's like a romance slash thing, and this one's really thick, but it's one that I've had and wanted to read in a long time, and I definitely have been feeling like rewatching the movie. So this may also be something that I pick up instead. It's just very thick, so I don't know if I'm going to have the time or the patience or the energy to do it, but that's an old pick. The next challenge is something green on the cover. I have had this book from the library way past its due date, and I'm just holding it hostage until I finish it. Part of the problem is that I am not enjoying it. I'm not very far through at all, but the writing style is killing me. I hate it. But I want to watch the TV show that Reese Witherspoon's production company has been producing. I've heard really good things about the TV show, so I need to read the book first because neurotic, but this is the perfect excuse to push myself to read it through. There's green inside of the exploding lollipop, and maybe if I'm forced to read it during a readathon, I can actually finish it and give it back to the library and stop holding it hostage. That'd be nice. Break to wipe the fog off of my glasses. Hashtag climate change. Okay, the next challenge is to read a book while wearing a hat. So you have to wear the hat the whole time that you're reading the book. I figured I would choose a really sort of quick read or something that I can get through pretty quickly because I don't wear hats often, and it's also ungodly hot and I don't want to have extra clothing on, and a hat is just gonna keep it's steaming up again already. It's just gonna keep me being very warm. So I picked up The Sun and Her Flowers by Rupi Kaur. Oh god, I need to look up how to say her name. I read Milk and Honey last year, 2 years ago, at some point. This is her second poetry collection, I believe. It just came out in paperback, so I picked it up, and we'll see how that goes. It's not my favorite poetry collection. I understand why people enjoy it, but yeah, it'll be interesting to read this. I've kind of been picking them up just to be able to discuss them in sort of a discourse where many people have read it. It's a bestseller type thing, and I would like to support poets and getting poetry back into the general canon of like things that people read and enjoy. And I think that the sort of comeuppance of both Rupi Kaur and Amanda Lovelace with The Witch Will Not Burn in this one, and The Princess Saves Herself in this one, which I did really like and recommend. That's getting us there. It's getting some poetry back into our lives. Challenge number 5 is a book with a beautiful spine. I'm just gonna slowly bring this guy up. This is Arcadia by Ian Pierce. A lot of you probably heard of it. Jen Campbell raved about it when it first came out. I picked it up before she had even done her video on it because this cover is so freaking beautiful and the spine is equally so. I also have the audiobook borrowed from the library at the moment, which will make it easier to read this guy because it means that I can read it while driving to and from work, and on my breaks at work I have a hard time like focusing on a physical book while I'm at work because there's a lot of stuff going on, but if I put headphones in and I'm listening to it, that's another way that I can sort of get that through on my lunch break and things like that. So hopefully I'll be able to get through this even though it's pretty large. But yeah, it's definitely one that I've been sitting on. I just need to do it. The final challenge is to read 7 books, and I have shown you 7 books. Other books that I may pick up aside from P.S. I Love You, which was one of my alts for one of the other challenges. One of the other books that I may pick up because I have to read it because we're doing book club about it is Tempest and Slaughter by Tamora Pierce. If you don't know, Bibliomancy for Beginners has moved to a podcast form. You can find it now anywhere that podcasts are downloadable. iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, all that stuff. I can get it on my Podomatic app, so presumably third-party apps also work. This is going to be the one that's going to be going up at the beginning of August, more than likely. Gretchen is finishing up her summer classes, so we're pushing it from the last week of July to the beginning of August, which is why I still have time and why I haven't picked it up. But she's a big fan of Tamora Pierce, and let's see how we feel about this. I haven't read any Tamora Pierce, even though I know she's sort of a staple in YA/children's fantasy. I also have Authority by Jeff Vandermeer, which, if I'm not wrong, let me double check and make sure that I don't, this one isn't the third one. I think it goes Annihilation, Authority. Yes, okay, Acceptance is the last one. So sweaty, I hate it. Authority by Jeff Vandermeer, which is the second book in his Southern Reach trilogy. I recently watched the movie for Annihilation and really enjoyed it, and I read Annihilation in one sitting 2 years ago. Time flies when you're depressed and you spend all of your days in a gray mush. But I haven't picked up the second one. I do own both the second and the third books because I enjoyed the first one so much. I do want to talk about the book-to-movie adaptation for that one because it's very different from like a perspective, but it's a great movie and a great book, and they're both very different, and I like it that way. This is why I need to make a video about it, but I also would like to read more of the trilogy so that maybe I can understand if they put something into the movie that was maybe from some of the other books. Would recommend both of those. Might pick this up. I have it. It's here. It's one that I might grab. I don't know. In keeping my sort of chick lit / contemporary literature theme that I've been doing, my mom gave me Lillian Boxfish Takes a Walk by Kathleen Rooney for my birthday. So this one's brand new. I just got it a couple weeks ago. It's one that I hadn't heard of until she had shown it to me. It's about an old woman that takes a walk through New York City, and it sort of is reminding me of... There's several books that I have about elderly folks going on travels or reminiscing and things like that, and it's something that I find very interesting, the way that we look back on the past, and I think it's something that my generation in particular, most millennials, sort of look at because we're living in a post 9/11 world and a post technology boom world where in our lifetime, which is not very long, we went from having sort of the same childhood that all of the generations before us had to having a very different teenagedom with the computers, and we're seeing the generations after us who have only had computers and sort of seeing the effects that has and what we think about it. And I think that this guy is going to have something to say about that sort of generational gap and looking back in time and maybe have some insights on that. The last book I have here that I may pick up during the Booktubeathon is Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I have not read anything by V.E. Schwab. I own several of her books and I follow her on Twitter and love her very much and love the speeches I've heard of hers and things like that. This is the one that I had first heard of years and years and years ago, and the sequel I believe is going to be coming out in the fall, which is one of the reasons why I want to finally read it. I grabbed the reprint cover because by the time I went to go grab it originally, the original wasn't in my bookstore anymore, but with the sequel coming out, they've done a reprint. I do love this cover very much. I liked the old cover too, it was pretty good, but basically one that has sort of been on my radar. It's sort of like superhero / supervillain bromance, two best friends that become enemies in like a twisted thing. I heard there's like a neat library element to it too, so it's one that sort of piques a lot of my interests, and I've heard very good things about her writing, and I like her as a person, so I'm looking forward to this as well. That was it. These are all of the books that are like around me that fit the challenges or don't fit the challenges, but are just books that I can read that I might want to pick up that are very present in my mind. yeah, I hope that you guys are having good days, good weeks. Gretchen and I are trying to get our shit back together to make videos together and do more content. I'm finally sort of settled in my new space. I'm feeling a little bit better mental health wise. Having a job that's full-time has sort of been a little bit hard to adjust to, because I went from having part-time jobs to having like a full 40-hour work week. That's sort of like hectic, and figuring out how to do life stuff has been difficult, but we're working on it. We're trying to get videos out. Maybe this week, where I'm going to try and make a video every single day in the week, will help kickstart my love for video making and editing and stuff. I have been super loving working on my podcasts, which, if you didn't know, I have a D&D podcast that I'm the GM of. It's technically Pathfinder, but D&D podcast, and then also our book club as a podcast format, and I've been really enjoying doing that, as well as the video making and stuff like that. So we shall see how this goes. I'm sorry for my appearance. Again, it is very hot and sweaty, and my glasses are fogged up again. Ugh, I'm so over today, and it's only noon. I'll talk to you guys again soon.